In the research and analysis of these locations, the question arises, what do they have in common? Well, they are part of what is known as the Ancient Great Alignment. It's also been called the Ancient Great Circle. So, what is a great circle? Great circles are straight lines that go all the way around the center of the Earth. For example, the equator is a great circle. And other than the equator itself, any great circle crosses the equator at two antipodal locations, 180 degrees apart. Other than the equator and meridians of longitude that run due north and south, any great circle reaches its maximum latitudes at two locations that are 90 degrees of longitude east and west of the two locations where the great circle crosses the equator. Easter Island, the Paracas Drawing, Nazca, Ollantay Tambo, the Paratori Pyramids, Dogon Country, Tassili Nejar, and Giza are all aligned on a single great circle. Additional ancient sites that are located within 1/10 of 1 degree of this great circle include Petra, Persepolis, Khajuraho, Paya, and Sukhothai. Near Ollantay Tambo, Machu Picchu and Cuzco are within 1/4 of a degree, as well as Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley. The ancient Sumerian city of Ur and Angkor temples in Cambodia and Thailand are within 1 degree of the Great Circle. The Angkor temple at Preah Vihear is within 1/4 of a degree. The circle crosses over the source and the mouth of the Amazon, the dividing line between Upper and Lower Egypt, the mouth of the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus River, and the Bay of Bengal near the mouth of the Ganges. The circle also crosses over a number of areas of the world that are largely unexplored, including the Sahara Desert, the Brazilian rainforest, the highlands of New Guinea, and underwater areas of the North Atlantic Ocean and South Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea. The alignment of these sites is easily observable on a globe of the Earth with a horizon ring. Aligning any two of these sites on the horizon ring will align all of these sites on the ring. These 4 images are centered on the 2 locations where the Great Circle crosses the equator and the 2 locations where the Great Circle reaches its maximum latitudes. Latitude at 138 degrees 36 minutes west longitude.
When Masons came to America, they practiced their trade in the same way they had in Europe, embedding secret codes within the design and foundation of the American colonies. Some believe this may account for the geographic location of the 5 great Revolutionary War cities. In particular, Boston, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. have all been built in perfect alignment along the eastern seaboard. Researcher Jim Allison believes this alignment may be a part of something greater.
Let me say this. I think it is very unlikely that the alignment is coincidental.
According to Allison, the alignment of cities and ancient sites are part of a series of great circles that encompass the Earth. These circles are supposedly like lines of power upon which significant sites are built.
The simplest example, the most obvious example of a great circle, though, is the equator, because it runs around the center of the Earth. It runs due east-west. Meridians of longitude, which run due north-south through the north and south poles, if you extend it all the way around, those are also great circles because they run through the center of the Earth.
Allison claims that mystical sites like the pyramids, Easter Island, the Mayan and Aztec cities are all built upon these great circles. In addition, one of these great circles contains the 5 cities that date back to the era of the American Revolutionary War.
Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York City, and Boston are in fact aligned. They're fairly close together. The distance from Washington, D.C. to Boston is 400 miles. And as a result of that, you can see the alignment just on a flat map, because the curvature of the Earth is not so much over that distance to distort it. But on a three-dimensional map, it's even clearer.
But is this just a curious coincidence, or could there be some hidden meaning behind it? In the 1920s, an Englishman named Alfred Watkins noted a series of straight tracks or lines upon the Earth's surface that seemed to connect the ancient monuments and holy sites around the world.
What he found was that in a number of cases, a number of these monuments were aligned in dead straight lines that extended from a few miles to, in some cases, many miles. He coined the term ley lines to describe and to explain these alignments. Watkins believed that there are some type of grid lines that run through the Earth, lines of energy or magnetism or electromagnetism or some other kind of attraction over the Earth. And that's what he described as ley lines. Watkins believed that the builders of these sites were aware of these lines that ran through the Earth, and that they intentionally built these monuments on these lines.
While Watkins' findings were not openly received by all, his views have been most often embraced by members of the esoteric community.
In the occult, there's this concept of ley lines, L-E-Y, which are lines of force that some people say are like the acupuncture points of the Earth. And you always want to build things on a ley line. All of the great cathedrals of Europe are built upon these ley lines, which are like currents of power.
These currents of power are thought to have magical significance. Some believe they act as portals for spirits to travel to and from the ancient monuments that fall within these alignments. But the question remains, were such power lines important to the builders of early American cities? Were they aligned with a secret purpose in mind?
It's very important where the pyramid of Khufu is built, the Great Pyramid. And it's very important where Stonehenge is built.
There are several great circles that ancient monuments are aligned with. And in some cases, ancient and modern development is aligned with. Extending the alignment from Boston to the northeast towards Europe, the alignment crosses over the Atlantic and crosses into England and crosses over.
Stonehenge is built.